Okay, greetings all. Good evening, good morning, good day, wherever in the world you might be. I am the whitepaper wise one, and I want to give a shout out to Ms. Bezaden-Hout for being the inspiration to make this video. We were discussing ICOs, and Ms. Bezaden-Hout encouraged me to make a YouTube video on the subject. So in doing some research and viewing some other videos, I was alerted to a common problem. Other reviews too often only provide a readout of the token sale page, kind of like that annoying lecturer who just reads straight from the textbook out loud without providing any real insight. And then at the end of these videos, the reviewer will say, and here's my referral number for a bonus when you sign up to the ICO. Now, what I'm hoping to do, or what I aim to provide, is a concise, critical crypto analysis and evaluation, hopefully to provide you, the potential investor, with better information before you part with your hard-earned money. As you will have gathered from the screen, I will be discussing LAToken in this review. Now, this LAToken has been reviewed quite extensively by a number of other reviewers, but I'm hoping that I will at least be able to provide you, the viewer, with some more information and insight that you may not previously have been exposed to. Also, if there are any members of the development team that see this video, I will raise a couple of issues that I'm sure many people would be quite appreciative if you could address them either in the comments below or at some place on your website. So developers, if you could just pay attention for when I raise these issues. Okay, so what we have here on the screen is the main LAToken website. What it shows are the various options they have available in stocks, shares, and commodities. And they also display the relevant price trackers of these options. The most impressive thing about LAToken is that they are already operational and they have a functional website. This is their strongest selling point, and this has been stressed in every review. If you have already purchased LAT on their ICO previously, then you can already go into their website and you can buy shares and commodities that they have available right now and already start trading on their platform. This is huge, and a big thumbs up to the LAToken development team. This is a very impressive standard, and they've just raised the bar for all other ICOs to follow. Okay, now I'm going to move over to the next tab, which is the actual LAToken coin sale. Okay, LAToken is liquid asset tokens. Okay, their ICO is coming to an end. There are only 2 days left. I only made this video right towards the end of their token sale because initially I had no intentions of making video reviews until I was encouraged to do so. So the basic concept of LAToken is tokenizing a range of pre-existing traditional asset classes, including those that have traditionally been illiquid. Those would be art and property, for example. Okay, this is terrific because it makes a whole range of asset classes that were previously inaccessible to common individuals who did not have the sufficient monetary funds to now invest in these things that were not possible previously. The tokenizing of assets also enables asset owners to generate capital, and this process has typically been a very complex and onerous task for asset owners, and the availability of capital is often very difficult to create. So what LAToken is doing is really quite revolutionary in this regard. They're also going to be offering trade in equity, stocks, bonds, commodities, and with this access to the classic markets without needing to convert to fiat. So this is very significant for those of you who are into investing outside of just the crypto space. Because trading is all done on the LAToken blockchain platform, there are no brokers with high commission fees. Okay, so this is going to enable trading of stocks and commodities without having to pay minimum fees or high performance fees for your brokers. So yes, this is fantastic. Why is this fantastic? It also allows investors to not only diversify their portfolios, but also provides an avenue to efficiently transfer your wealth into assets not linked to or influenced by Bitcoin and other crypto. Hence, it will serve as a safe haven from crypto crackdown news. For example, Counter announces Bitcoin exchange ban. then the price of Bitcoin and all other crypto altcoins plummet. Typically, when the price of Bitcoin drops, it drags with it the price of all other altcoins. Now, typically your day traders in these scenarios would have just sold off their holdings in cryptocurrencies for fiat. But now, if you have Trump making more reckless tweets and Brexit negotiations are hitting a stumbling block, then the value of both the dollar and the pound are sliding as well. So if you've converted to these currencies, you're actually still losing wealth. Now, while this is happening, you might have companies like Tesla who have cars hitting the market, and so their share price might be soaring while the value of other currencies, both fiat and crypto, are sliding. So what the token is enabling investors to do is now transfer their wealth from one class, for example crypto, straight into another, for example shares in companies like Tesla or Apple, without having to go through the cumbersome process of converting into fiat currencies first and then being involved with the slow proceedings of typical brokers and those exchanges. So this is actually huge potential for the LAToken platform, and I can see a lot of traditional investors, hedge fund and otherwise, getting involved in LAToken when the word starts to spread of the ease of use it provides and the cost-saving options it also provides. Okay, so the implications of this is that LAT will be in high demand when tides are turning. When investors are wanting to move out of one asset class and into another because of breaking news, then they will need LAT to enable them to purchase the new asset class, and they'll get that LAT when they sell from their previous asset class. Hence the high price of LAT, the high demand for LAT, once it is established, will rise while everything else is sinking. Okay, once the LAT platform is more well established, with more options available, I think it's likely hedge fund managers are going to start using LAT as their preferred platform to trade on in order to minimize their expenses and therefore make higher profits. And when this catches on, the LAT value will skyrocket. Sliding down this LAToken token sale page, they've got a number of companies that have reviewed their platform, and they've got a very insightful, or rather informative, video giving a more comprehensive explanation of what their LAToken platform is hoping to offer for people, and they give a description of how it works. They've got this quaint little diagram, and the problem with this diagram is it's actually slightly inaccurate. You'll see here you've got this asset owner. He now puts his house up for liquidization in order to raise capital. Now, this poor sucker here is left with nothing. This doesn't happen in the real world. If we watch this again, he gets LAT for liquidizing his house property. His LAT first went to that investor, and that investor gave it to that investor without getting any exchange. In reality, what would happen is investor number 2 over here gives investor number 1 2 banknotes for that LAToken, because that investor is only likely to give away the LAToken he received if it's increased in value. Otherwise, he's more likely going to hang on to it when this guy has to pay him back. But as it stands here, he's getting nothing, and then 1 unit of that money goes straight back to him. So, slight inaccuracy. Let's not get too hung up about it, but it does touch on a subject that I'll come back to when looking at the white paper, because there are some misleading implications with this diagram and with the general conception of how the tokenization of assets will work. Okay, so this is just a quick breakdown of their value proposition, how it's valuable to you, a breakdown of the format that they're going to use in terms of their data. They show the advantages of this, and they outline the potential values of this, the industries in which they're going to be involved. So this is quite relevant to the investor if you're looking at the potential that this company could be worth. What's also worth noting here is that they've got a long timeline, in that your boy who started this Valentin Preobrazhensky. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that correctly, and I apologize because I most certainly pronounced it incorrectly. But he started off as a hedge fund manager. Then he started a similar concept to what LAToken offers in terms of providing capital for asset owners of property through an equity arrangement. And they, or he and the team with him, clearly have recognized the potential of blockchain and have adopted it to basically make their idea or concept that was already an operating business with the logo, and they have now developed the token. So what's very important to the potential investor with this information is that this is a well-developed company already. It's not just a bunch of people that have come together with a supposedly great idea and trying to market it off to get a whole bunch of people to jump on the bandwagon and throw lots of money at them. This is essentially a well-developed concept, and it has been done so by individuals that have had a lot of work experience in this industry sphere. And on this point, they just point out that they've had involvement with numerous banks, they've processed numerous equity loans, and so this is all very good information for the prospective investor. Okay, then they give a breakdown of their token sale. I'm sure you can go on to looking into more of that in your own time. The team, this is your boy Valentin Preobrazhensky and Danilo Simonov. Both of them have worked at Zalogo, so the two of these guys clearly have a lot of professional history behind them, so it's very reassuring to a potential investor when you see that there's a good history between the members that are carrying the company forward. Another person worth mentioning that I saw in a video actually put onto their website is this Cecilia Mueller-Chen. Now, she's a legal and compliance advisor, and formerly she worked for the compliance office at China Construction Bank Corporation. Now, why this is very relevant is because LAToken is taking no shortcuts. They are trying to be fully legally compliant in every aspect of the platform that they're developing, which kudos to them. This is hugely impressive, and this is an indication that this platform and their model, the structure of the company, is going to be one that's going to last, because they actually, rather than trying to shy away from legal complications, they're embracing the legality issues head on. It is, to be honest, creating a couple of, in my opinion, instances where things on what should be blockchain can't be as smooth, but I see these as issues that will be worked out over time, and this will only be done because they've embraced an option that's trying to, or striving to be, fully legally compliant. And yeah, they deserve huge commendation for this. You can also see there's a very long list of individuals involved. That token platform is so extensive, it's unavoidable, and it's actually very impressive the number of people that they have got involved in this project of theirs. They give a brief kind of outline of the potential industry in 2025. This is a diagrammatical illustration of the LAToken concept. It enables you to go from any form of currency, whether it be fiat or crypto, through the LAToken platform. You then have access to equity, loans, real estate, commodity, and works of art, as we've been discussing previously. So they've got a bunch of videos available and an illustration of the timeline. Then they've got the wallet. We'll go onto the wallet later to show what they have available on there. And that, I think, pretty much concludes the token sale page. Now we're going to go on to the actual white paper, and this is going to be a bit more in-depth. I was hoping I'd be able to keep my reviews really brief, but the token has embraced such an extensive project that is simply not going to be possible for the sake of this particular review, because there is just so much content to cover and a lot of details. Now, the white paper seems to be something that most people find too cumbersome to read, too much information. I strongly advise you, if you are thinking of putting your own money somewhere, read through the white paper. If there are any fallacies in the ideas of the company, it becomes quickly evident when you are reading through the white paper. In general, you'll find that the white paper covers basically a more comprehensive and extensive review of what they were showing in their token sale page. You'll also recognize many of the same diagrams are used to illustrate their points. Okay, I am wanting to, on a couple of things while we're going through here. What you're wanting to see when you're reading through a white paper is that the company that you're looking at has done some thorough investigation. And what you can see here, as evidenced by the number of times they actually give listings of the references they make throughout their white paper, is that they have researched this thoroughly. I have to commend the crew behind LAToken for having done so much research and such thorough research. So this is really reassuring to anyone who's considering putting their money behind LAToken and investing in LAT. Okay, now the one critical point I have with the LAToken proposed manner in which they deal with tokenizing assets that were traditionally illiquid, their property and the art. I've got the art here, and I'm just going to read through to you the specific wording, and why it's going to be a problem is going to be illustrated soon. As per the example below, seller fees associated with an artwork sale are 20 to 25% of the sale price or hammer price, while buyer's premium is charged up to 25% according to Sotheby's commission structure. Thus, buyers often overpay a significant amount over the hammer price, while sellers receive far less than the auction price. Now, they claim LAToken offers crypto holders direct exposure to the value of artwork, eliminating the middleman, example, dealers, auction houses, dramatically reducing transaction costs and providing a fair market valuation and liquidity. That sounds great, and conceptually I commend them for this. The vision to recognize this niche in the market is exemplary. So jumping down to section 4 of the white paper, how it works in terms of trading tokens from linked to a liquid asset price and the trading of tokens linked to illiquid asset prices. Now, I'm going to bring this up now because it's directly relevant to what we've just read about the art auctioning and the supposed positive access that the LAToken platform brings to the industry. And this is also going to elaborate on the criticism I had earlier of the diagram with the man tokenizing his asset, his house, and exchanging the LAToken for easy access to capital. As we're going to see now, it's not quite as happy-clappy as it sounds. Okay, I want to focus on the illiquid asset prices because that's the houses and the art that I've just been mentioning. Okay, so how it works, and let me read this straight to you. Another advantage of LAToken is that it allows asset owners and crypto holders to easily create and trade tokens linked to the price of previously illiquid assets, such as real estate and artwork. The general process of the asset token creation and sale on the LAT platform consists of 4 steps. 1. Asset owner signs an agreement with the LAT certified custodian transferring ownership rights to the custodian. So careful, people. When you do this, you're actually giving away ownership of your asset. So you no longer own that house if that is what you are tokenizing. Point 2. The custodian issues tokens linked to the price of the asset and sells them to the crypto holders on the LAT platform. So this is where people on the LAT platform can now buy their share of this house. Now number 3 is where crypto holders may sell asset tokens on the secondary market. Sorry, not the point I meant. Point 4, the asset owner buys back the asset tokens on the settlement date, or the custodian sells the asset at a fiat auction. Now this is where the issues come in. A, because your asset owners may be poorly informed and suddenly they're discovering that they're actually losing their house because the value of the stuff has risen significantly while being traded on the LAT platform to the point where they can no longer afford to buy it back. Now, this is actually typical of all investing, so it's not really an issue with the LAToken platform. It's more just a heads up to people who are getting over keen with the concept that LAToken presents. The issue that the LAToken platform has is with this next part. The custodian sells the asset at a fiat auction. fiat auction being a normal money auction, not a crypto auction. So all the points they were making about how their platform is so much better than fiat because you're not going to have to pay auction prices on the hammer and etc., are now redundant because it's now being sold on a fiat auction by the custodian, and only then will the profits be redistributed to the crypto holders of the asset-linked coin. So this is a process, and this is something I wanted developers to please take note of, because I am sure that a more efficient means can be come up with in order to address the situation. I think auctions could happen on the LAT platform. There should be LAT platform auctions, and these auctions should enable people to bid for the house as it currently is with cryptocurrency, whether it be LAT specifically or whether you open it up to other altcoins, Bitcoin, etc., is up for you to decide at a future date. But really, I think it is a fundamental flaw to then have to, without any alternative option, revert back to fiat currency in the instance that the previous asset owner defaults, in the sense that they no longer want to buy back or cannot afford to buy back the asset that they tokenized. So this is a big fundamental gaping gap in the plan as far as I am concerned. But I don't think it's a reason to get too worried. I think there are so many ways that this issue can be addressed, and I actually think with the possibility of introducing a crypto auction, and I was even thinking what you could have is a real world auction that is fiat inclusive. You could have a representative there who's also representing the bids made by cryptocurrency holders from anywhere in the world. This largely happens in real auctions today. You'll often have buyers that are present at the real auction while actually buying for an owner somewhere else in the world, and they'll be communicating over phone or over the internet. And so the same idea could be remodeled for LAToken auctions. There could be a venue. LAToken, I think, would do very well to increase their real world presence. When you start exposing yourself to people who typically invest at auctions and aren't necessarily used to engaging with the crypto space, it could be a great eye-opener for them. It could be great exposure for the LAToken platform to gain a number of new customers. So I think this is something that LAToken should really look into. So developers, please, your thoughts and input on that particular matter would be greatly appreciated. Whizzing back up the white paper to where we were before, I wanted to flash down to expose the slight problem with their plans. We can see the idea they have for elimination of information asymmetry and fraud, which is arguably rife within the nature of current trading platforms. And so a blockchain approach will obviously make the whole process transparent and unfraudable. So this offers obviously great potential for the LAToken platform, and these efficiencies are basically going to make the LAToken platform outperform all other traditional platforms. Ultimately, it was trading without this kind of blockchain ability that provides the elimination of this information asymmetry and fraud that is what led to the massive crash in 2008, as mentioned here. They're moving swiftly along. They very thoroughly go through all their competitive advantages they have, both industry-wise and with mention to specific companies. And this, again, is where they have been very thorough in their research, and again, highly commend the group at LAToken. They have embraced this wholeheartedly, left no stone unturned, and they have basically taken on the world. This is a very bold step, but a very intelligent step, and I'll go into more on that why. But basically, we can just see here that they are involved in real estate, equity of listed domestic companies, debt, commodity, and works of art. And they go and they show comparatively with other people in these various industries, and they have a number of criteria and illustrate why they are in fact outperforming these competitors of theirs. And they do this quite extensively throughout the section 3. They also go on to mention the associations they have and the partnerships they've formed with long existing companies. So this is also very reassuring to the investor, and again, the extent and the degree to which they have gone into this in such detail is very reassuring to the potential investor. Okay, now we get back to section 4, how it works. I've already discussed the actual issues with the trading of tokens linked to illiquid assets, but there's also a few issues with trading of tokens linked to liquid assets. So this includes publicly traded equity, debt, and commodities. On the LAT platform, crypto holders can buy tokens linked to the price of publicly traded assets, shares, bonds, and commodities. The process is as follows. LAToken issues tokens linked to the price of publicly traded assets, example, an Apple share. Crypto holders can buy the asset token at an auction on the LAT platform using their cryptocurrency. On a predetermined settlement date, LAToken buys back asset tokens from crypto holders at the current market price of the underlying asset. Example, current market price of an Apple share on the Nasdaq. Okay, this is very similar to purchasing a forward contract on the stock exchange. The advantage is that due to much lower transaction costs on the LAT platform, even small retail crypto holders can benefit from the upside potential of stocks, bonds, and commodities without converting cryptocurrency to fiat. Now, this is great. However, what may not be immediately apparent to the casual reader is the fact that you are going to be paid back in LAT, in the converted cost as specified here, at the current market price of the underlying asset. The token buys back the asset tokens from crypto holders, and they're going to be buying it back by paying you in LAT. So if the conversion rate of LAT to the typical fiat option that will be quoted on the Nasdaq is despairing as a result of the LAT price increasing, if you've traded for the asset token, you might get back relatively less simply because the value of LAT has risen. So you're not being paid back a percentage based on the percentage increase of the underlying asset with LAT having appreciated to the same extent. It's being paid back a simple conversion ratio of what that asset is on the day of the expiry. Now, this is another issue that I have. As a personal investor, I would rather be able to buy a share and sell the share when I choose to buy it. The predetermined date means that if the share has just hit a slump because of a recent news article release, then you have no option but at that date to accept the exchange back into LAT. Whereas if you actually held the share, you could continue holding it, knowing that the value is going to return after a minor blip. So this is a bit of an issue for me personally. I would be more apprehensive about embracing the technology that doesn't actually give me access to the assets as shares. Also, a lot of investors typically do incredibly well on receiving the dividends paid out by shares in various companies. Now, because you only having tokens that will be paid back representing the increased price of the share, you have no exposure to the potential dividends that get paid out to real shareholders in these companies. So again, if there are any LAToken developers listening to this, please make a means by which cryptocurrency can be traded for real shares in the underlying company, etc., and make it such that it can be incorporated into the blockchain with payouts and dividends that are automatically converted to crypto. Then you'll have a lot of people loving the system. But as it stands right now, this isn't actually that great, at least for me, and I would imagine a number of other people. It also means that in order to be investing in the other commodities and shares available on the LAToken platform, you're essentially betting against the performance of the LAT token price, and hedging your bets on the performance of that underlying asset, for example, the shares of Apple being better than the share of the LAToken price. So if you buy shares in, let's say, Tesla through the LAT platform and the shares increase quite substantially, that's great. You think you're going to get more back. But if the LAToken price for actual LAT, the currency of the LAT platform, has increased by more than that of the Tesla share price, you're not going to receive any benefit, because when you trade back at the end of that time period, you're going to get back less LAT than you put in initially, because LAT has increased so much more in the interim. If they merely did it where you put in X amount of LAT into a certain share option, that share option value increases by, let's say, 20%, you get X amount of LAT plus 20% LAT. That would be great, but that is currently not what is explained in their description of how trading works on their platform. So yeah, this is the only reservation I have, but I don't see this as a reservation with the LAToken platform or the company. I see this as another thing that could very easily be addressed, especially given the caliber of the individuals in this team. Another point I think should be stressed at around this stage. I've heard it said on some other reviews that Americans can't invest in LAT. To the best of my understanding, and I need to disclose that I am not American, Americans, by the law passed by the SEC, can't engage in cryptocurrencies that are underpinned supposedly as shares. But you can engage in cryptocurrencies that are merely tokens for exchange on a platform. Hence, Americans can actually buy LAT currently, the LAToken that is available on the sale, the ICO. What you cannot do as an American currently would be use your LAToken to then buy the supposed underlying Apple shares or whatever on the LAToken platform. As I understand it, that is currently not legally allowed. But buying LAT itself, America, yes, you can. You can buy LAT. Okay, so returning to the actual white paper here, after that tangent on the availability of LAT to American residents, I want to make another point on real estate tokenization and another potential issue. Okay, so in order for any asset to be tokenized, it needs to go through a certain process. And this is a very necessary process, and I think the LAToken platform and the team have devised a very sensible approach to the matter, and a very efficient approach. However, the resale of these assets are always apparently on a predetermined date. Now, I don't know how strictly set those dates are and what flexibility there is, but before the thing can be resaled, it needs to undergo a second appraisal. So when the item first gets put up, when it's tokenized, it will be given an appraisal to give it the value, and this value will be what it goes for on the LAToken platform when people want to buy and using their LAT. Then over the elapsed time, then it gets a second appraisal to get it re-evaluated, so we know the price at the time at which it's going to be sold back. Now, what happens here is there are certain LAT certified appraisal firms. Okay, they conduct an on-site appraisal of the property. The appraisal report is shared with the homeowner upon completion, and then the property must be insured by the owner prior to tokenization. And then this step basically happens again upon the resale of the the second appraisal happens when either the owner is going to buy back his property for LAT, or if they don't buy back the property and the property gets auctioned, that's when the second appraisal will happen. But now, the thing I'm curious to know is if their second appraisal quotes a price that the asset owner does not approve of, I am fairly certain that the asset owner is entitled legally to a second opinion. So the time association to then have a second opinion generated through a second appraisal linked person, LAT certified appraisal firm, to come in and reassess the situation. Is this going to then defer the date at which stuff is sold? This is another point, LAT developers, if you are listening to this, it would be appreciated if it could be addressed. And if the asset owner is indeed entitled to a second opinion, which I'm sure they are, and the two opinions differ quite drastically, how are the different valuations going to be resolved? This is, in the words of the white paper, the issue I'm referring to. A homeowner can buy back asset tokens on a predetermined settlement date or before. The buyback price will be determined based on the property's second appraisal, conducted prior to the settlement date. The buyback price is determined in US dollar value and then converted to LAT at the current exchange rate. Thus, the buyback price may be higher or lower than the initial sale price. So this is an issue. If the price is significantly higher, which you are kind of anticipating it to be, which is why you invested in this asset in the first place, the asset owner will now need to pay more just to get their property back. So I don't know what regulations LAT is putting in place for people to tokenize their properties, whether they're only going to be able to tokenize secondary properties or whether you can tokenize your primary property, because if you're tokenizing your primary property, that's actually your residence, your place that you live in, and you then can't afford to buy it back, you are going to have problems. And so it's not evident in this white paper how this issue would be addressed. Okay, if a homeowner decides not to buy back asset tokens, the custodian will sell the real estate via fiat currency auction. Okay, this goes back to my point about auctions. I think there's a more efficient way than this can be done. Auction proceeds will be distributed among asset token holders in crypto or fiat currency. The homeowner does not incur penalties for early redemption. Once asset tokens are bought back, a deed of reconveyance is issued to the homeowner and the asset tokens are eliminated. Don't worry, you're not losing your asset tokens. It just restores your investment as LAT, so you get paid out for it, basically. The process of our tokenization is pretty much the same and raises the same issues. Okay, 4.3, the transaction fees. This is where it needs to be noted. In addition, there are additional expenses the asset owner has to pay in fiat to service vendors involved in the process. Appraisal fee, insurance, trustees fees, legal fees. So these are a whole bunch of fees that previously sounded like the LAToken platform manages to avoid. Legally, they can't avoid these. These are fees that need to be paid. So just as a potential investor or someone rather who is planning on tokenizing their property, be aware of these fees. They still need to be paid. But the LAToken platform is still the best platform on which to tokenize and gain capital by liquidizing. I don't know if liquidizing is the correct term in this context, but you know what I mean. Moving on to section 5 of the white paper, the LAT platform. They break down very nicely all that the LAT platform has to offer. From the LAT wallet, an asset token constructor, the LAT marketplace, a trading terminal, an app store and constructor. Yes, people, you heard correctly. You can legitimately, on their platform, create apps. That is pretty legit. Why this is so clever is it means that it is very viable for people to come into the LAT space and become a part of what's there rather than having to create a competitive app. So this is a very clever thing that incorporates the people in a much better way rather than forcing competition. So newcomers don't have to compete with such a well-established platform. They can instead embrace this platform and contribute towards it. Okay, they've got a back office which basically can track all the things that you're interested in and invested in. This is very relevant to the hedge fund managers that I think are going to be adopting LAT platform in the not too distant future. It provides all the market analysis that they typically need. And again, big thumbs up to the LAToken team for producing a product that has got so much available to it for every person and every need is met. It's really incredible. Okay, and this is where I want to just stress how incredible this is. paying so much attention to all these aspects of the different people that will be wanting to use or potentially can use the LAT platform. They've focused on what all these different people may require, may want, may need, and they have made it available, and they are making it available in a legal context. Like I said earlier, they're not shying away from that. They're trying to embrace it fully to make this legally compliant anywhere, to basically enable people to adopt this great technology that they have available. And because they have made every aspect you could possibly imagine available, you are going to have this outcompeting other versions that don't offer quite enough of what LAT is offering. You can take an analogy to a cell phone. A cell phone in this day and age provides so many options. Okay, assuming I'm referring to a smartphone rather, and it's the reason it's called a smartphone is because it can do so much. Because it can do so much, it can take pictures, it can make phone calls, etc., etc. You now often have people that don't own a home phone because they have a cell phone. Most people often don't bother investing in a separate digital camera because they have a cell phone camera that is perfectly adequate. Most people won't bother listening to radio because music is easily accessible on their phone. You don't see people walking around with iPods and MP3 players anymore because people use their phones. The smartphone has become a device which is basically outperformed all the other things because it can do everything in one package. Similarly, the LAT platform can do everything in one package, and that is why it is going to be so appealing. That is why it is going to be a success, and that is why I anticipate hedge fund managers are going to start flocking to this when more of the typical options they like to invest in are available. Currently, while the platform is already operational prior to the conclusion of the ICO, which is hugely commendable, the options are somewhat limited. Your commodities are, at this point in time, limited to gold and oil. In fact, let's hop over to the LAToken wallet. So if you come onto your LAT platform, the wallet, you will have your balance in LAT. They'll estimate the equivalence in Ether. And if you want to get more LAT, you can buy very simply. It logs all your transactions with date, description, status, and sum, as is pretty standard with all crypto wallets. And you can very easily move from your wallet to the LAT platform. Okay, I've messed up. I accidentally closed the wallet without going onto the platform. The computer was stunting. So apologies for that, but you can view the platform on your own. Actually, you don't really need me to do that for you. So back to the white paper, I guess. Just quick summary. I won't actually scroll down to it, but just to let you know, Section 6 is the review of the asset markets. Then Section 7 is their review on crypto. Section 8 is technology and blockchain overview. Now, most of you in the crypto space will be familiar with most of this information already. The general asset overview may be informative to those of you not otherwise inclined to be interested in general markets, etc. So that may be worth your while to inform yourself and read. Then 10, in Section 10, they discuss the legality of this stuff. Section 11 is a breakdown of the team, a very extensive and comprehensive breakdown. 12 is a brief thing of their roadmap. So that's kind of a wrap-up of the white paper. What were a couple of points that I did want to bring up earlier that somehow skipped my mind at the time. Again, basically pertaining to the issue of the sale of the illiquid assets, specifically the property, which was discussed in 4 point something here. This whole process, what I would like to have addressed, LAToken development crew, please, is what is the situation with rent of real estate? Now, I assume that still goes to the asset owner, or once a custodian technically becomes owner of the asset, does the custodian receive rent of property that's not being lived in by the owner? And if this is the case, what actually becomes of the rent money? Would it be feasible for the LAToken platform to be a means for people to access profits from rents of properties that are on the LAToken platform? I think that would be great if it were available. I think what a lot of investors look for are investments that can provide income in the meantime without having to wait to a point where you have to sell the investment off and hope for a profit on the initial sum invested. That's a very primitive way of investing, and investments that can provide interim remuneration are far more beneficial. And it's for that reason that I raised the issue earlier about actual shares that provide dividends. And this is another issue I would like to have addressed if possible. If LAToken could not make it possible for shares to be available that actually pay out dividends in LAT, that would be absolutely fantastic if you could. Also, with the buyback clause of these various options, and this pertains both to real estate, the auctions, and the smart contracts of the commodities, etc., where there's a set date, what is the time frame of these dates? It's not mentioned in the white paper in what I've read. I may have missed it. It's not impossible, but I don't think I have. And what kind of time frames are we looking at? I know this would be, at least in the case of the properties, something determined, I imagine, when the negotiation is set up by the asset owner. But in terms of the shares of the standard commodities, what kind of time frames are we looking at? Are you able to look, or as an investor with LAT, decide that you want in a time frame of, let's say, 3 years? Are you able to choose a short time frame of 2 months? That's one thing that's not addressed as far as I've been able to find, and something that's actually, I believe, quite critically important for a lot of investment decisions. So yeah, that's pretty much my assessment of the white paper of LAToken and what an incredible product they are delivering. This has been quite a lengthy discussion all in all. So I want to go now to another website who does a great job of a basic visual summary of what I've gone through with you now. This is the Verified ICO's website, verifiedicos.com. You can go to it. These guys are great. They give their verified stamp of approval on legitimate ICOs that they see potential in. And if you scroll down, they've reviewed a number of ICOs and given their stamp of approval, and you will see our LAToken is here. You can click on your the ICO of the cryptocurrency or altcoin of your choice, and let's hope that the Wi-Fi and the internet are working. And then they give a breakdown of it, which is quite succinct, very convenient. People who don't have time to listen to lengthy videos like this one, I strongly recommend you use the verified ICOs as a good guide when to invest and when not to invest. They say whether the concept is good, the team is good, and the execution is good, and they give a full-on breakdown and red flags. And this is so significant. No significant flags have been identified. These boys have not identified any problems with the LAToken platform. That is because the LAToken team have been extensive in their approach to crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. Guys, this is a really incredible company that you are dealing with. So that's the Verified ICO. Is a very nice, concise summary for those of you that don't have time to watch videos. Use this as a guide of what to put your money in. I highly recommend it. I do have to disclose, however, that as far as I have been able to tell, the verifiedicos.com review does not necessarily include a verification that the actual coding, the programming coding of the altcoin cryptocurrency that's being promoted in an ICO actually operates. I don't, to the best of my understanding, they do not conduct a sandbox test run of the code. I have emailed the guys and I'm waiting for a reply if this could maybe be included in their reviews. Although I do recognize that the process may not be feasible for them. But I look forward to hopefully seeing verified ICOs, which has been a very useful guide for me. I hope to see them incorporate this feature in the near future. Instead, this evaluation deals with a lot of other relevant aspects one needs to consider when potentially investing in something. They pay a lot of attention to the team and the concept underlying the coin of the ICO. my personal opinion is I'm not too concerned with the team if the leader claims to be from Tatooine, etc., provided the underlying actual coding of their coin works. If it works, the blockchain will do its thing automatically, and that is what I am more concerned with. So I have been looking for some way that can verify this for me. If any of you listening to this are able to advise me where you can go to have a third party verify that the code of whatever potential ICO coin has been tested and verified, that would be very appreciated if you could leave that in the comments. But I think that's pretty much all I have to say on LAToken. What a fantastic product. I look forward to seeing where this takes the world in the future. I really do think it is going to transform the commercial trading industry worldwide. I think it's going to be great. I look forward to producing some more stuff for you guys in the near future. I've been looking at Smart Billions. It's a lotto on the Ether system, so I think that might be the next review you guys can look forward to if you found this at all useful and informative. Until then, cheers.